I'm in a hotel lobby in Venice, Italy, 2005, with my schoolmates. We're exploring Europe for our tour, and my word. We're standing in this lobby, and suddenly this guy approaches me, and I think he's coming to either help with our luggage or offer to show us to our rooms, whatever it is. What I don't expect is what he says. He looks at me in my eyes and says, "You are not going to make it to see your 17th birthday." That was the first time I had ever encountered a fortune teller, soothsayer, sorcerer, or whatever he called himself. That was the very first time. And over the years, I had random people walking up to me and prophesying, saying they see this and that and declaring a word over my life. Some of the stuff manifested and others evidently not. But there was something about this encounter with this man I met all these years later that was different. Something that absolutely shook me. It changed everything. By virtue of being the daughter of a king, there is a grace that I carry, a very deep, ancient blessing. And the thing about stepping away from God and disconnecting from the source is that you tend to forget who you are and what you carry. I'm going to share something with you that is going to sound crazy and perhaps to some even untrue, but I'm not here to convince you of what I'm saying. I'm simply here to share what I've experienced and what I have seen. Not heard, seen. I met this guy, very good looking, dapper, well-groomed, put together. He's the type of guy who when he walks in a room, you will notice him. People sit up, you will notice him. He's got that presence, that dominion, authority about him. Eloquent in his speech. Gentleman. You will notice him. And so I'm out with my friend and him for dinner. We're at this really elegant restaurant. The ambience is on point. The food, my goodness. Now, as the evening goes on, I notice he keeps on staring at me. And it's not that perverse, I want you, I'm trying to, He's with my friend. They are feeling each other. No, he's staring at me as though he sees something nobody else at that table is seeing. He's really looking at me. And he's not saying anything. Now, I acknowledge that part of the lure about this guy, or the thing that was just so intriguing, was the fact that he didn't speak much. He's just that very calm, suave kind of guy who doesn't really need to speak. He's good looking. He's got it together. He is financially stable, so he doesn't really have to speak. And then, of course, he owns this beautiful house on a private island. So all of it just comes together and it sounds so dreamy. Except what I didn't know at that time is that that location he stays in is very intentional. It is very specific. And it has little to do with the sandy white beaches, the beachfront views and the palm trees and, oh my gosh, this tropical climate. No. He is there to be closer to his source. He is a man who practices divination. He consults with sea beings to provide his riches, amongst other things. So for the purposes of the story, let's just call him the Seaman. So back to the restaurant. I'm sitting opposite from this man, and he's staring at me. And he's looking at me as though he sees something that nobody else is seeing. And he doesn't say anything. No, he just keeps on ordering his expensive bottles of champagne, and then we leave. Days later, I'm with my friend, and she randomly says, "Oh, the Seaman says this and this about your future." And I say, "Pardon?" And she tells me, "The Seaman says you have this very specific," and she named it, "grace over your life. And this is what's going to happen in your future." Now, I know my friend. I know my friend well enough to know that she is not spiritually, maybe the word is discerning enough to say that. I know how she speaks. I know that that was not coming from her. I know my friend. So I knew he had indeed said this. I also want you to know that what he declared was not bad. Not at all. In fact, what he declared is very much in line with what God says regarding my life. But at the time, I didn't know it because I had disconnected from the source. I had forgotten who I was and what I carry. Looking back on it, I even remember that there was always evidence of it. I remember a time when I was out at the club and some drunk man came stumbling out of the club and he beelined for me. And he said, "Do you know that you have this over your life? I can see XYZ." And I knew he wasn't making it up because the way he was looking at me, the way he was looking at my head, he was seeing this thing on my head, my actual head, the way he was looking at it and the way his eyes opened when he was seeing it. I knew he was not making it up. And even then, not being as spiritually discerning, I could tell he was seeing something. I was not that oblivious. I was told this very same thing by a guy I had dated in my early 20s who, after a date, dropped me at home and said, "Do you know this about yourself?" And I'm thinking, no. And I said something that was just so, I'm not even going to repeat it. I cancel those words, but it was just so like, no, don't know it. Don't think it's true. And then, of course, this was something my mom had been speaking over me for a very long time. So the evidence was always there. The evidence was always there. But what was it about this man's words, the Seaman's words, that shook me? Why was it that when he said it, it woke me up? I never let those words slip away. In fact, I actively started seeking answers. Over the years, I had taken on so many identities trying to figure out who I was. At some point, I was the rising plus-size model. I was so-and-so's girlfriend, the twin, the immoral woman, the girl who lost her dad, and the list goes on. But it was in making my way home and building a relationship with God that I began to get the answers. I remember before I came to certain revelations, or before certain revelations came to me, I met with a trusted, very well-loved man of God who began to open my eyes to certain things. He began to show me as clear as, you see that guy who you did this and this with? You see that guy you slept with, that guy you were dating then? Yeah, that guy. This is what he did. And that's why this and this is happening. You see there where you practiced dishonor and you were disobedient? This is what is happening. This is why you are experiencing this and this. But it was only, really and truly only, when I began to seek answers from God directly going to him and seeking, because he says, "Seek and you will find." He will answer. It was in going directly to him that it really started to come together. I honestly feel like that man of God was the door that opened. He opened that door. He was the one who helped me understand that this goes further. This is beyond this. you only get further revelation from God. It was God who really started to bring it together. Some of the things that were said over my life were absolutely untrue, but not what the Seaman said. And some people think, well, it's only people who've got God in them that are able to see the future. It's only people who tap into God that can prophesy. No. Acts 16 tells us about the girl with the spirit of divination who was able to tell the future. And what she was saying was not untrue. What she was saying was true. But I tell you this, nothing is more powerful than God and His word. The grace that Seaman was seeing on me was because God put it there. He just happened to be tapping into the spirit realm and saw it. He didn't put it there. The enemy didn't put it there. God put it there. I carry it because I am the daughter of the King. And to know how to receive it and to function in it can only happen through and because of God. Disconnecting from God, our very source, from our Father, the King, Jesus, is very dangerous. It is a dangerous thing. People can come in and out of your life and turn things upside down in a way you would never believe. And so my hope is that through the story, there are certain lessons you will take with you. Number one, don't let anyone speak over your life and just be silent or just accept it, especially if it does not align with what God says concerning you. Don't let anybody just come and say anything anyhow. No, God says what it is. You're His child. He created you. Number two, be careful who you move around and who you sleep with. The Seaman, his beautiful home, close to his source, on that private island, by the sea. Oh, he brings girls there. He brings girls there frequently from what I hear. Be careful who you move around with and who you sleep with. Number three, come home. Don't be afraid. Yes, you may have done this and you've done that. God, your Father, already knows. He knows everything. He even knows what you're going to do. He already knows. And He still loves you. He still wants you to come home. So just come home. You'll figure it out with Him. You will figure it out with Him. He's already figured it out. He just wants you to come home so that He can show you that. Come home. You will never be lost with Him. How could you be when He is the truth?